Country Living Chronicles segment, episode 2. If you haven't seen episode 1, make sure you click the link so you can see Brother Brian's testimony. Country Living Chronicles is a segment we have to capture other people's country living journey and separate our episodes to make the episodes not so long. So I hope you enjoy Brother Jim Gertner's testimony of faith on his move to the country.
My name is Jim Gertner. I live in the north part of Georgia on 23 acres with my wife and my daughter and my son and his wife. And we've been living here for about 6 years now. And I want to tell you how my journey went, how we got here, how I even thought about moving to the country. I grew up in the state of New Jersey and lived on a quarter-acre ranch in a lower middle-class neighborhood, and visited Brazil quite a bit when I was a kid growing up. And because my mother's Brazilian, my father and mother were pen pals and they were kids. And went to Brazil 1 year and met my wife, who was brought up as a Seventh-day Adventist, and I basically didn't have any religion or anything, and so brought her back to the U.S. And through a series of Bible studies with her, I become convicted of the truth that the Seventh-day Adventist Church was teaching, and was baptized a year later, praise God. And I started reading books like Counsels on Diet and Food. I was always very interested in nutrition, and one of them was Country Living. And Country Living, it said that, that we need to know how to raise our own provisions because the time of buying and selling would become a very difficult one. And I had grown up, even though I grew up in the suburbs, I enjoyed the woods and the country. I spent a lot of time in the woods with my dog, hiking, but my wife was totally different. She never even had access to the woods because she lived in a second-story apartment building in Brazil. And after we got married and we moved from New Jersey down to Georgia, I was looking for our first house, and I finally found one, and it was a half an acre because she didn't want to move to the country at that time. And and she was even asking about the half acre. Why do we need so much land? And so I said to myself, I wasn't able to move to the country, to the land and the spaciousness and the nature that I wanted to. But I decided that I was going to make that half acre land, which was we were about 30 miles north of Atlanta, and into a training area. So I planted a garden. I put in irrigation. I started saving tools and equipment for one day I would move to the country. And even drilled a well on the property too, because the irrigation was costing us a fortune. Anyway, time passed, and my son spent some time in Brazil. He went down there after high school and spent a year down there on my brother-in-law's farm, which was a 2,000-acre soybean farm. And he called back and said, "Dad, this is what I want to do. I want to walk in my uncle's footsteps, and we need to all move down to Brazil, and that and my brother-in-law was going to give me a parcel of land that I could put a house on. I could live there and raise my family there." I said, "This is it. This is country. This is it. We're going to move to the country in Brazil." And so my son stayed there a whole year. He came back and he says, "Okay, Dad, I'm going to work for a while." And my son is into hardwood flooring, and he worked in that. Let us work for several years. Let's make some money so we could have some money to move to Brazil. And so I started looking for different careers I would do in Brazil. And I had a background in electronics and computer engineering. And I saw that in Brazil, there was a lot of call for people who were involved with factory automation, factory maintenance, things that have to do with the automation industry. And there happened to be a community college nearby, and I decided that I would take the course there and learn this new profession, so I would be very employable when I finally moved to Brazil. And again, that's where most of all my relatives on my mother's side lived anyway. So I did that, and I graduated from there, and I started doing some traveling, and actually had to work in Brazil for 5 months for my job because I have a dual citizenship. It was easy for me to go there, and so I was able to work there for 5 months. And then I started realizing the difficulties that was just to live there. Things like logistics, about even getting groceries and worrying about your car being there when you came back, and and maybe not the safest place to raise my family. And my wife was never really hot on the idea anyway, moving back to Brazil. She felt very comfortable and safe here in the United States. And so I came back and told my son, I said, James, I think maybe we're just going to stay here in the United States. And he had heard some troubling things too. And he actually decided in his heart too that wasn't for us. And so we had actually sold our house because we were ready to move to Brazil, and we were renting to get ready to move at any time. And so I started looking for country property again, further up north from where we lived, about an hour north. And I couldn't really find anything that was really a good price. I found suburban homes near the country area, an hour north, just as expensive as where I was living. And so I saw a house for sale in our neighborhood for sale by owner. He just put the sign out. And so I basically compromised. I said, well, I'll just buy this house here in the neighborhood where we were renting, and then we'll just push off the country living move to the future. So I bought that house, and so what happened was my son was getting ready to get married, and his fiancée in Brazil started going to natural remedies and country living presentations. And she became convicted of the country living message, and she told my son that, we should really move to the country. That would be the best place. And I had been looking at country property before, and I had found this place where we're at right now, actually. And it was on 23 acres. It only had a 2-bedroom, 2-bath house, and it was extremely overgrown, and plus there was an area which was very wet, so I felt maybe the place is swampy. So I don't think my wife would like living up here. And so I had completely written it off. But my son said, Rebecca, my future wife, she's been convicted about country living, and I am too. I think we should buy a place together. We could all live together. And when that happened, I said, this is a real opportunity for me, and to really unite the family, and an opportunity I cannot pass up. And I think my wife felt the same way too. And so unfortunately, we had just bought that house, and we were like 6 months in that house, and so there's closing costs involved, and now in order for us to afford to buy the new country property, we'd have to sell our house. And so the owners of the country property said that we'll sign a contract, but we got a kick-out clause. And that means a kick-out clause is that if we find another buyer and you can't find somebody to buy your house, then you're out of the contract. And so I said, now the pressure's on. We really wanted the property, and we're thinking, what are we going to do? And so what happened is that we all prayed about it. We all knelt in the living room, my son, my wife, and my daughter, and prayed that God would open a door for us to get this country property, because but at that time my wife had already seen the property. He came up, and she looked around the property, and she said, nothing against this property. In fact, what happened, the big seller was that she walked to the back pasture, which is like 4 acres clearing, and when she looked at it, she said, this is like having our own park. And then so as the proverb said, she considered a field and buyeth it. And so she was for the idea. And so because of that, she was in the prayer circle praying that we would get that. So finally, we had the whole family united for the first time on getting a country property, including my wife. And so the realtor came over, put the sign in the front yard. And could you believe it that after about a half an hour, I looked out the front window of the house, and I saw my son talking to a man, waving his hands and talking. And I said, what's going on? And the man said, I want to buy this house. A half an hour after we put the sign outside, I want to buy this house. And I thought it was maybe, I didn't know, maybe a scam or something. But it turned out it wasn't. That in 2 weeks later, he signed the contract and he bought that house. And that opened the door for us to move up to here in North Georgia, to the property where we're at right now, where I'm filming this from right now. And so we packed everything into a big moving van, and we came up here, and it was difficult because we got here late at night, and everything was in boxes. And so we had to basically sleep on the makeshift, set up some furniture in the bedrooms, and everything was just a big mess when we first moved in. But as the days went on, we slowly unpacked. But unfortunately, something happened after we moved here. We had stored most of our stuff in my mother's house, and my poor mother came down with Alzheimer's and would no longer turn on the air conditioner. And all our stuff got very moldy in her basement, but we never gave thought to mold. This never bothered us before. And so it grew like a white fuzz on a lot of the boxes. We put everything in our cars and brought them here to the house. Anyway, and then we found out later there was a leak underneath the dishwasher, which caused some mold to grow under there, black mold. And there was a vent underneath the dishwasher, blew hot air across the bottom of the cabinets. And unfortunately, it blew mold spores all over our house. And we didn't find this out until later. But my wife started getting sicker and sicker, and her weight got down to 103 pounds. And we went to a naturopathic doctor, an Adventist doctor, Dr. Wes Youngberg, and said, you have a problem with mold. And sure enough, we tested our house, and we had a mold problem. And so we ended up getting a trailer and putting it out in the carport. And it was a good thing we were in the country, because if we didn't live in the country, there'd be no place to put a trailer, because they don't allow trailers in a lot of these suburbs because of the homeowner association. And so we moved out into the trailer, and then my wife slowly started getting better. And then my son, being in construction, praise God, was able to help us rehab the house. And we also had contracted an Adventist family who had put an addition on the house. Remember, the house is only a 2-bedroom, 2-bath house, so we put an addition so my son could have his own apartment, 1-bedroom, 1-bath apartment for his wife, and we needed a 3rd bedroom, so my daughter would have a bedroom also. So we had to tear out the whole air conditioning system, and also our books. We lost all our books. I had a big library, 40 boxes of books. My wife teaches English as a second language, and I had a lot of books on spirit of prophecy, Bible books, study, science, electronics, country living books, and they basically all had to go. And so all the books had to go, not our furniture, all our couches and also our beds, and anything which was porous and spongy, we had to get rid of. And so, which was actually was a blessing. We found out we didn't need as much stuff as we really thought we did anyway. And so we finally rehabbed the house. My wife went to Brazil to her mother for a few months, and when she came back, and this was last December, the house was finally completely rehabbed, and now we're finally in December living in a clean, beautiful house, and everybody has their own room, and it's been a wonderful blessing now to come out. And now we're starting our garden up finally, because we had so much other work to do with the house and other things like that. And so currently, also another thing I didn't mention, which was a huge blessing, and a door is open for us. At the time we were living in that house we had just bought, I had just gotten a job with a company with the promise that after a year of working there, I'd be able to work from home. And so that door opened. That actually happened before we all decided, did the contract on this 23-acre property. And so that opened the door for us too, that I had employment. I encourage you that if you are thinking about moving to the country, that you look in things like, you could look on Realtor.com, and that's how we found the property. It was for sale. It was a great price. And I don't think anybody really wanted it because it was a 2-bedroom, 2-bath house. So if you look at something that's maybe undesirable like that, or it's not enough room, you could always add on to the house. And so that was something where you could do and to find country property. And another thing you could do too is do some door knocking and ask if somebody's interested in selling their property. You never know. Those are unadvertised specials. We have a property on our street, actually, an old abandoned house on 5 acres that we actually found the owners finally, and they were interested in selling the house, and it was unadvertised. And so that's another way you could find country property. As far as employment, I think one of the great things you could do in the country is technical support. Of course, you have to have an internet connection, and if you have an AT&T or Verizon phone signal, you can get internet out in the country. And if you like to know how, You can call me, you could Instagram me or Facebook message me, or you can find me on the internet, Jim Gertner, and contact me that way. And so there are jobs like that, technical support jobs, where you can make money from as long as you have an internet connection. And when we first moved out here, we had some trouble getting a good internet connection, but now we do it through a wireless connection through Verizon reseller and an AT&T reseller. So those are some logistics about moving to the country. But I encourage you to don't be afraid to move out to the country. You're not going to be isolated. We know our neighbors better than we ever knew our neighbors in the suburbs. I think it's because we all have this feeling like we're all in it together, you know, as far as we're helping each other, and we're interested in each other's well-being, and we have some wonderful, wonderful neighbors, and just so blessed, and you will be too. And another thing which really attracted me too was not only, you know, having to raise our own provisions, but that other quote about your character being transformed imperceptibly into more of that of your Creator the more you behold nature. Because you'll see things that you'll never notice before, as far as the different habits of animals and creatures, and the fresh air, and the quietness, and it's just a huge blessing. I encourage you to don't be afraid to make the move, start looking, and it took me a long, long time, you know, but our time is short as we come to the end of the age, and the return of Jesus is coming. So sincerely look, and God will open up a door for you. And anyway, if there's any way I could be a help, just contact me. You can find my name on the internet, and I will be very happy to help you with your endeavor as you move to the country.
I hope you were encouraged by that testimony of faith, and that you continue to persevere as we head to that better country. Be blessed and be a blessing.
Be blessed and be a blessing.